nothing meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. Robots in disguise.
On SCTV. Welcome to my co-host Andrew, and I am Ian. As you can see, I noticed in my second intro I put every Saturday night, which is not true at all. Maybe that's a sign.
It's every second or third at best.
Yeah, every second or third, depending on time, depending on availability. But this is a Super Cinema. I'm going to get right into it. Listen to this. Oh, there you go. But don't worry, I'm not drinking booze. So this is just a Mount Franklin watermelon sparkling water. Very delicious. What do you have?
I'm drinking Jack Daniels and Kirk. Got a mix.
Jack Daniels?
Jack
Is that a
Daniels and
Jack and
Coke.
Coke?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very good. It's a very cheap drink, but a very nice drink. By the way, just to let the audience know, my internet is taking a dump right now, which is great timing because the
Yeah, your
internet was really
screen's
good for the
freezing
past
a
week
bit.
until this very moment. So it's kind of annoying. But we'll get through it, hopefully. Pausing all the time. This is untenable.
Hey, everybody. Seems we're experiencing technical difficulties at the moment. I'll just wait for the cheers. Hopefully we get the show on the road soon.
All right, I'm back.
Ah, sweet. You there?
Are we back?
Still acting up? You're still freezing a bit on my screen and cutting out.
Still freezing. Just
Yeah.
wait. Should be back up. Because I'm not getting the bad internet signal on my StreamYard.
Oh, yeah.
I'm watching the stream and I'm freezing very badly. How we now? The internet was reset, so hopefully it'll pick up in a second. But I think we're back.
All good?
Maybe. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think we are back. What great timing. Like I said, we had great internet for at least a week or more. And at
And
this exact moment, it drops out.
we're just about to get into it and not waste time, too.
Exactly. After 7 minutes of intros, I want to get straight into it. All right. But actually, you got to tell us about your drink because that's when I was cutting out.
Yeah, you said that it's cheap. Jack Daniels and Coke.
Yeah. It's cheap but really good. Jack Daniels
It's
and
cheap.
Coke.
It's depends how you look at it. It's more valuable than its price.
I mean, that's for sure.
Hey,
I guess that's what I mean by cheap.
We cheersing Ghostbusters or what?
Oh yeah, that's right. We're cheersing Ghost. This is disoriented right now. Cheers to Ghostbusters, released 1984. It spawned a lot of great toy moments and cartoon moments for us as kids. One of the more prominent franchises in terms of toys for us, for sure. We definitely had our share of figures. So here's to the Ghostbusters, and here's to Bill
Cheers.
Murray.
Cheers.
I think this is when we really started to appreciate Bill Murray. And it became like a lifelong appreciation, I think. Like he was one of my favorite actors of all time, easily. Like especially as in terms of comedy. Like he just has so many great
Bill
movies.
Murray. Yeah, he's got plenty of memorable movies and characters.
Yeah, just too many to list. Yeah.
All very humorous, mainly in that areas of expertise.
But it's his own style.
Comedy, yeah.
It's his
I feel
own
like
specific style.
Laid back kind of comedy.
But it's always the ladies' man. Because he's not handsome, but he's still the ladies' man in every movie. Especially in Stripes. You remember Stripes?
Oh yeah, Stripes.
The
I haven't
army
seen
man.
that in ages. I must have watched that when I was still like single digits in age. It was probably the last time I watched it. I don't think I watched that as a teenager even. So, yeah, it's a movie that I need to go back and check out.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Ghostbusters 84. So right in the sweet spot of the 1980s. Purple Rain came out in 1984. I think Thriller came out in 84. Let me check.
Look.
1982. So 82 was Thriller, 84 was Purple Rain. Predator was 87. Aliens was 86. So that's sort of the contemporaneous time frame for the Ghostbusters. And I was 6. Really? I was 6. Is that true?
We
That
must have
doesn't
watched
seem
it
right.
a couple of years after its release. I don't think we saw it at the cinema.
Yeah, at least double digits or close to it. But directed by Ivan Reitman. So he worked with Bill Murray in Stripes as well in 1981. He directed Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in Twins, and also Junior, again with Arnold. So Arnold really likes Ivan Reitman, calls him a genius. And this film was written by Dan Akroyd, Harold Ramis, and Rick Moranis, who all play prominent roles in this film. Didn't Dan Akroyd, wasn't he in SNL?
Yes. Yes, he was.
That's right, yeah. Because you can see some of the comedic stylings of SNL, or those organized, those sort of TV show comedies back in the day, like Rick Moranis would have done. You can see that influence in this film in terms of the comedy. And so this film stars Bill Murray, Dan Akroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, and Rick Moranis. So it's interesting to see Sigourney Weaver in this role after doing Aliens for our second episode. It's a very, very different performance from Sigourney Weaver in this one, for sure. But she was pretty fun. Especially when she starts getting possessed. It was pretty funny. Okay, so
getting those animal instincts. And behavior.
Actually, what was your memory of this movie back in the day?
Yeah, I was trying to think of what made it so significant to me, and I just
Mm,
remember wanting to be a Ghostbuster. It
yeah,
had this effect where I wanted to pretend to be a Ghostbuster. Imagine going around catching
yeah.
ghosts, using the vacuum cleaner as like a proton pack, or and just
Oh, we
getting
used
like
to
a
do
box
that all the time.
as a trap.
That
So
was one of
yeah,
our favorite games as a kid, is to pretend Ghostbusters,
yeah,
right?
pretend, play. Like we had
Yeah.
consoles and stuff, but we still did this pretend. What would you call it? Like role
We
play
did heaps of pretend. It's
simulation.
pretend play. We did heaps of pretend play based on stuff that we saw on TV. Heaps,
Yeah,
and Ghostbusters was one of the best ones.
yeah, we watch like a martial arts movie and then we'll go and like fight
Yeah.
each other afterwards.
But I think a lot of childhood was just copying stuff. Like I would copy
Yeah,
basketball players or cricket players as well. Like it,
yeah.
even in the sporting arena as well. So, and I mentioned the toys at the start. Like Ghostbusters toys was one of the best toys as well.
It's up
Um,
there with the like He-Man and Ninja Turtles and G.I. Joe and Transformers and stuff.
yeah, absolutely. Yes, you just listed some of the
I think
best
it's
toys, and
like Ghostbusters is like one of the most iconic franchises, like
yeah,
for popular culture. Like
yeah.
that's still around from such a long time ago.
But it's I think it's because of the logo and because of the theme song as well.
Yeah,
Like
themes.
they're very distinctive and memorable. The theme song and the symbol of the ghost with the red line. Um, but yeah, it just sparked our imagination back in the day. So we get into the film. So it starts with a shot of the New York Public Library, and it sort of focuses on a lion statue out the front. So watching this as an adult, I sort of come to realize that it's a sort of a love letter to New York. So New York City is sort of one of the main characters within the film. And it sort of depicts the milieu of the the population of New York in a particular light. How they're sort of tough, they don't take any crap. And it's sort of reflected in the Ghostbusters as well. There's sort of everyone's sort of hardworking. It's very blue collar. And then you have Peck, the environmental guy running around. Like he's very different to everybody else, but so he's depicted like a dick. Because he's not this hardworking, blue collar guy like everybody else. So it was an interesting depiction of New York City back in the mid '80s, because that's how it was back then. Um, and so we get some very whimsical music to start the film off, and we see people walking around the public library. And we follow the librarian to the basement, and we see some books floating in the air between the shelves. Um, and then we see library cards like flying out of the drawers, and that sort of freaks out this old, decrepit librarian. And then she turns the corner and sees a bright light and strong wind and starts screaming, and then cue the Ghostbusters theme song. Like everyone knows the Ghostbusters theme song. Even if you haven't seen the film, you know the theme song. That's how
Definitely.
popular it is. Um, and so we cut to the Weaver Hall Department of Psychology and the Office of Paranormal Studies lab, where our heroes are, I guess, doing some research. And on the door to their department is Venkman Burn in Hell. So they're not really liked in the university at all. And so our initial presentation or introduction to Venkman is through this test. So this is
Yeah,
a humorous stuff.
I forgot about this like this scene altogether. So when I
Yeah.
watched it again recently,
Mm,
it was hilarious scene to watch
yeah.
again.
Yeah. So we've got the big Jew fro, which is popular in the 80s. Um, and Venkman's like shocking this guy. So they're doing some sort of ESP test, some sort of predictive test,
Yeah,
they need to predict what
it's
shape
called
is on the card.
the effect of negative reinforcement on ESP ability.
Yeah, that's right. That's the technical. Well, that's what Bankman's trying to decide is with the presentation of negative reinforcement, can people who use ESP still be proficient in using ESP? So he's sort of rigging it. He's sort of rigging the test in favor of the girl, and he keeps shocking the guy, even if he might get it right. He's still shocking him, which is pretty harsh. I mean, to get an electric shock, but he's paying them, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah, but it's $5. You can keep
it's
your
$5. Yeah, you can keep your $5. I don't know what that is in 30 years ago. I suppose it might be $20. Who knows? But with inflation, probably $50. But
30. It's almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, probably 40. Oh, yeah, 40 years ago. That's right. So the girl, she's got like 5 out of 5 right, and he's got all of them wrong.
But she's got none right. Like,
oh wait, I should
like,
say she's got none right, but Bankman pretends that she's getting it right. And so this guy gets pissed off and leaves and tells Bankman to shove his $5. And then Ray Stantz bursts in, disturbing Peter's alone time with the girl. And so he sort of jumps up and beats him on the head, which is really weird to see. And then Ray tells Peter about a, quote, free-form floating vaporous apparition witnessed by 10 people in the library. And so they're going to go and investigate it with the other Ghostbuster, Egon Spengler, played by Harold Ramis. And so he's already down there at the library getting some insane readings of ghost activity. But then Peter's very skeptical. So out of the three, Peter's the most skeptical of the paranormal and the supernatural. So he's more of a smart alecky type of guy. He doesn't take the science.
He's kind of unprofessional as well. He's like the goofball, like make side jokes or wisecracks and won't take things seriously.
Yeah. So he's sort of he's the comedic relief, but he's not the same type of nerd as the other two, because the other two are making science jokes the whole movie. And so they're sort of interviewing with the librarian who saw everything. Bankman asks her if she's had a history of schizophrenia and if she's used any drugs or if her family has a history of mental illness or whatever. And then Egon says, oh, the apparition's moving, we better go check it out. And so they go to the basement, I guess, and the books are like stacked all in a vertical row. I mean, stacked vertically really high, which suggests paranormal activity, but Peter doesn't believe it, of course. And they walk past the card drawers, and they're covered with ectoplasm, the paranormal slime that's the ghosts leave behind when they fly past, I guess.
I think that's another like the slime is something as a kid we were just drawn to. We were addicted to buying slime and playing with slime and wanting to touch and get our hands and mess in slime. And like I guess as a kid we just like enjoy that aspect that like ghosts have slime and you can get slimed.
The slime thing is interesting.
That's what came up when I was watching it again. It's the slime is like significant. I think in a lot of children that grew up in the 80s or 90s that you wanted to.
You remember Nickelodeon? Nickelodeon, the show had like slime. I don't know what it is with slime. Slime, Play-Doh, everything to do with it. Like
today you can make your own slime. They got like recipes and YouTube videos where you can just do it at home. It's real quick and easy.
Where to buy the chemically stuff in the toy shop? Who knows what that was made of?
The toxic
chemical
stuff. slime.
full
The
of
real,
lead.
it's a real
Actual toxic slime. Oh yeah, we watched The Toxic Avenger as well, which we shouldn't have watched as kids, but there you go. So that's another connection to toxic slime. But we watched Toxic Avenger because of our friends. Like that's another, like whenever you're growing up, you always have those friends that like suggest certain movies or TV shows and stuff that you would never have seen if not for them. So that was one of them. Okay. So the card drawers are covered in slime, and the Bankman has to take a sample. But then a bookshelf falls, almost crushing Bankman. But then the Ghostbusters, they turn the corner and they see a full torso apparition. This ghost librarian woman. They're trying to figure out what to do next, and Ray says, "Oh, maybe one of you should speak to it," and so speak to her. And then Bankman, they sort of turn to Bankman, and he has to do it. So Bankman's like, "Oh, where are you from?" But the ghost just shushes him. He says, "Shh," like they're in the library. And then Ray comes up with a different plan, which is basically just get her. Which doesn't turn out, the way that they want it to. So this is what the librarian turns into. So she was just a normal librarian, then she turns into this creepy ghoul. And then they sort of run as fast as they can out of the library. But Ray's still excited. Like it might be an unsuccessful trip to the library, but he's excited for the future in terms of the research for the future. And Egon even mentions they're going to capture ghosts at some point. However, back at the university, some bad news because the Board of Regents terminated their grant, and so they were forced to leave the university in shame. So basically, no one likes them at the university. They think they're a bunch of kooks, and so they got kicked out. But Ray, being the most positive member of the Ghostbusters, he realizes that but actually both Ray and Peter talk about going into business for themselves in the private sector to fight ghosts in their own type of business. Okay, but they need money, and so they use Ray's inheritance home as surety or as collateral as for a business loan. To get their business off the ground.
Third mortgage.
Yeah. So there heaps of money in debt. So there's a lot riding on this. And so they go to the future Ghostbusters headquarters, and it's just a dump. It's a former fire stations.
That's this one.
It's just a dump. It's that one, yes. That one. You see in his panel is the pop vinyl version of the Ghostbusters headquarters. So there's a humorous moment here where Egon and Peter are trying to negotiate a better deal, but then Ray, like a little kid, he slides down the pole and starts talking about how awesome this place is, which basically ruins their negotiating position. And so they have no choice but to take the place. At the price that the real estate agent was suggesting. So, and so we cut to Dana. Damn it. Yeah. So we cut to Dana getting out of the cab, going to her apartment, and then she's met by Lewis, played by Rick Moranis. So he's depicted as this tiny little nerd accountant guy who's really nervous but really, really talkative as well. And he really, really likes Dana, played by Sigourney Weaver. And she's a lot taller than him, basically. And so they don't really match up in terms of a romantic couple. But you can tell that he's really, really obsessed with her. And so
it's like he'll just hear her coming up the passageway in the apartment building or anything. He'll just like open the door. It's like he's waiting out, like waiting in his apartment behind the door for any sound she makes for him to come out just to speak with her.
Exactly. And that becomes like a humorous trope within the film is Lewis getting locked out of his apartment. every time he leaves, he gets locked out. But a good performance for Rick Moranis because he does a bunch of different stuff in this movie, as we'll talk about. He's not just a nerdy accountant. And so Dana shuts the door on his face and he's locked out. And then we cut to the new Ghostbusters TV ad playing on Dana's television. But the Ghostbusters ad is really basic. It's just as rudimentary as you can get in terms of a first commercial for their business. And their first slogan is, "We're ready to believe you." Which isn't that catchy, really. But and so Dana's putting groceries away when her eggs start popping in the carton, and they start cooking on the counter. Like something weird is happening. Zoom. So we see our first indication of the demonic hellscape and the fearsome beast Zool. That would provide, I guess, the main villain of the film. What everything's leading up to is an encounter with the main bad guy, which we'll get to later on. Gozer, if you want.
Gozer.
If you want a name, Gozer. So the Ghostbusters back at the headquarters, they've got a sign out front. And Ray, he drives up in an old beat-up hearse, which becomes the iconic Ghostbusters vehicle. And so they got a secretary, Janine. So she's got a really thick New York accent. Whoever the actress was, she did a great job as well. And so she really likes Egon, by the way. And so, but no one's calling them. They're getting no business. And then Peter's freaked out by her bug eyes as well. And then when Peter leaves, Egon comes out from under her desk, which is pretty funny. But he was just fixing the printer. And she's trying to like flirt with him and whatever. And he's like, "Oh, my hobbies are collecting spores, molds, and fungus." So he's basically a super nerd. Actually, who was your favorite Ghostbuster?
Well, if you remember, we had a dog named Egon.
That's right.
But I think he was named after the cartoon Egon, though, I assume.
Yeah.
I think so.
The cartoon
Egon. I like, because in the movie, like, I like Peter. Like, he's hilarious. He's probably, like, should have been, like, look, watching it now, he's like my favorite character. But I think, I know in the cartoon, I liked Egon in the cartoon. So. Yeah.
No, I get that. Because the cartoon was a bit different in terms of how the characters were depicted.
Yeah,
because it's a series.
The real Ghostbusters, it was called.
Yeah.
The animated version.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun as well. Sort of reminds me of the Ninja Turtles question as well. Like, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle? I can't remember who was my favorite Ninja Turtle. I think it was Michelangelo.
Yours was. I know mine was Michelangelo.
I think mine was Raphael. Then. Must be Raphael.
Yeah, mine was Michelangelo.
Cowabunga is the Cowabunga. Okay, so Dana shows up to the Ghostbusters headquarters, And so Venkman's already in love. Like he sees her and falls head over heels in love. Of course, it seems like he falls in love with every woman he comes across except for Janine. But he really falls for Dana straight away. And so she tells him about the crazy story about the creature in her fridge. And then Ray and Egon speculate in a nerdy way about the potential of psychic turbulence. And they're going to research the name Zuul, Zuul. And then Peter volunteers to take her back to her apartment. What does he say? He's like, I'm going to take her back to the apartment, check her out. He said, no, I'm going to take her back to the apartment, check out her apartment. Take her back and check out her apartment. Yeah. So we cut to her apartment and Peter's walking around and it's like just messing with her. Like he's pretending he's like annoying the ghost. And he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
He's got this tool, like it's this long wand stick, and he's got some kind of puffing mechanism that he's pumping.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
like,
nonsense.
Pretending that he's trying to detect something, but it's nonsense. There's nothing scientific about it.
But I think they build on all the technological stuff in the second movie, right?
I feel
in terms
like in terms of being realistic, I think this movie like convinces you with its like scientific terminology. Like Ray and Egon's always coming up with these scientific terms for things, and it sounds convincing. And so, as an audience member, you're kind of convinced that it could be realistic. Like you convince yourself that it could be realistic. So I feel like you enjoy it more in that sense.
It's because you have to have Ray and Egon take it seriously. Otherwise, there's no reason for the audience to take it seriously. Like you can have Peter being the goof, but you still need the other guys to be the nerds to balance it out, you know. And so where am I up to? Yeah. And so Dana comments that Peter's more like a game show host and not really a scientist, which is true. And so in the kitchen, Peter checks out the eggs and in the fridge and comments on all the junk food in her fridge.
And he goes into her bedroom.
Yeah. And she says nothing ever happens there. It's like, it's a tragedy.
What a crime.
What a crime, yeah. Which is sort of foreshadowing for later on, but and then she kicks him out and calls him odd because he's like coming on really strong. Back in the headquarters, the guys are eating Chinese food and drinking Budweiser in celebration of their first customer. But then Janine gets a call and it's like a job. It's an actual proper job. They have to go out and fight some ghosts. And so they slide down the pole in their Ghostbusters gear, and the job is at the Sedgwick Hotel, which is a very fancy.
That siren of the Ecto-1 is such an iconic like sound that the blaring is.
Yeah. Everything about the Ecto-1 is iconic. It's just one of the more distinctive movie cars of all time.
Oh, definitely.
So they arrive at the Sedgwick Hotel. You see this stuck-up manager of the hotel. He doesn't want anything to go wrong because he's got some clients who have to use the ballroom that's actually haunted. And so they have to go in and get rid of the ghosts, basically. So they show up, just the three of them. They got their names on the uniforms, so they're very official, but also blue collar, which is what I was talking about before. Like they're very
kind of like janitors' uniforms.
I was janitors. I think more like a tradesman, like an electrician or a plumber or something. Like you call them when you have a serious job. around the house. But that's what I mean in terms of the blue collar nature of New York City in the mid '80s. There's an interesting time capsule of that time. So the head of the hotel wants them to do it quietly, but there's a history of disturbances on the 12th floor. And the elevator guy, he's like, "Oh, you look like a bunch of cosmonauts." And then Peter says, "Oh no, they're after a cockroach."
Yeah, they're exterminators.
Exterminators. Yeah.
Bite your head off.
Yeah. So they go up to the 12th floor, and the first person they see is a maid, and they blast their particle accelerators at her, just destroying her cart with like toilet paper and stuff. But we get to meet Slimer.
And they were talking about how they haven't tested their equipment yet.
Yeah.
So that was like the test.
That was the test, yeah. It actually works. Well, they haven't talked about crossing the streams yet, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no safety precautions or whatever. They just go out and do it. But anyway, let's meet Slimer.
Beckman?
Disgusting blob.
I love that line, disgusting blob. And when the cigarette like falls out of his mouth. That's hilarious when I was a kid as well. So Slimer becomes like the Ghostbusters mascot, basically. So he was the most prominent Ghostbusters ghost toy.
I think it was the animation that made him like the friendly ghost, I guess.
Yeah,
because he became part of the team. He became part of the team, like in the animation, but not so much in the movies.
Yeah,
but he did become like the mascot of Ghostbusters, pretty much.
Yeah, because it's the way it was designed. Like, it was bright green. It was kind of cute but disgusting at the same time. And it would just eat everything and drink
like
everything.
Dan Akroyd said that it was based on James Belushi, who was supposed to play Peter Venkman.
Oh, really?
Like he wrote that. He wrote that bit for for James Belushi. Yeah, but you know, James Belushi passed away.
Yeah, so that's right.
Yeah, so Slimer eating like a pig and acting and behaving the way that he does is supposed to be based on James Belushi. Well, that's what Dan Akroyd says. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense for sure. So yeah, Belushi also someone who was on SNL with Dan Akroyd back in the day. I think wasn't Eddie Murphy with them as well?
Yeah, Eddie Murphy was in. Yeah, he was on SNL, and he was. Yeah. They were going to get him to play Winston. Yeah,
really. That would have been awesome.
He didn't come on board because he would have had like a bigger part. He would have been like one of the main characters because he's Eddie Murphy. But because he didn't, then Winston Zedmore's part shrank. That's why he only came into the movie like in the second half of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's why Bill Murray became like the focus of most of the movie.
Yeah. He became
really interesting to see.
Yeah. It became the comedic focus instead of Eddie Murphy. Yeah. It's kind of both.
Yeah, that would have been funny to see Eddie Murphy though as a Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
But I guess he couldn't have one and not the other though. You'd want to have Bill Murray in there as well. Just because we know what he brought to it.
You can't imagine Ghostbusters without Bill Murray. So.
Oh, exactly.
So Slimer sort of flies off through the wall. And so Peter gets his encounter with Slimer So he calls Ray on the walkie-talkie, so where he can see it. I can see the ghost. And then Ray is like, "Oh, don't worry, it won't hurt you." You just hear Peter screaming on the other end of the walkie-talkie. And so Ray like runs around the corner and he sees Peter like struggling on the ground. He got slimed. Peter says, "You slimed me." That was pretty funny. So I got this screenshot because his eyes are like rolling to the back of his head. But then Ray's excited that Peter got slimed. Like Peter's really bummed out, but Ray's excited because it's a clear example of some scientific property or phenomenon. And so Slimer sort of makes his way into the dining room, sort of flying around on the ceiling, causing havoc. And they sort of try to shoot it, but they're just basically destroying chandeliers at this point. So they basically just trash this dining room, this gigantic, fancy dining room.
And Peter, he goes up to the table. He's like, "I always wanted to do this," and then he just pulls the sheet, the tablecloth out of under, and he's like, "And the flowers are still standing." And all the plates and cutlery just crash on the floor.
Yeah, that's something I would have done as well if I was in that position. Yeah, so they keep missing. They're trying to shoot the ghost, but they keep missing, and they just keep destroying the place. And then Egon's like talks about don't cross the streams, otherwise you can get a total plutonic reversal, whatever that is. So they have to sort of clear a space for the trap. So they sort of tip tables over and make room. And so Ray opens the trap, says, "Don't look at the trap." And Egon's like, "I'm looking in the trap." So this is sort of part of the allure or the fascination for us as kids in terms of our appreciation of Ghostbusters was the capture of ghosts. So this is the most exciting part of the actual, I guess, whatever Ghostbusters is. Like this is the most exciting part of it. Is the ghost capture aspect of it. And I think the special effects are pretty good for the time.
Yeah.
In terms of the ghost capture, I think some of the other special effects may not have held up at this point, but I think the ghost capture stuff was really good. Still,
I think the concept of how they caught the ghosts and like the concept of proton packs and the trap was well implemented and well thought of. It's like you got the proton pack, it sits on your back, and you got like this hose kind of trigger system, and like it like shoots a beam that's not accurate. Like you got to like use your strength to control this beam, and it's like kind of like whipping around everywhere, and it kind of lassos the ghost in the end. So it's like. It's not like a gun that you shoot the ghost and like it drops down into the trap. It's like you're catching a wild creature with a lasso almost.
No, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. It is like a lasso. That's correct. That's interesting. So they capture the ghost, and then Peter bursts through the dining room door. It's like we came, we saw, we kicked its ass. And they explain to the owner, it's a class 5 full floating vapor. And then Peter lays out the price, which is $5,000. Which I guess is like 20 grand these days.
Because I assume like they're just price gouging this hotel. And I'm assuming that they're not going to charge these prices for like everyday homes or regular small businesses and stuff, because no one's going to afford that.
Yeah, they're going to charge Dana $5,000. That's for sure.
Because they were kind of approaching bankruptcy and debts were piling up. So this was their opportune time to make out, I guess.
Yeah, and it was this particular job that made them famous as well. And so we get to montage time. So in the 80s, if you don't know, there were many montages in movies. You can explain a lot of information within a montage, and you can have a really cool song playing as well. So that's why so many movies had montages. So and this movie is no different. So it starts off with Dana watching a news report about an increase in ghost sightings happening across the eastern seaboard. And so we get a montage of the Ghostbusters catching ghosts around New York City. And so they end up on magazines and on TV shows. I got this screenshot because it's got Princess Di expecting you.
Expecting.
And so in 1984, guess who was born in 1984? That's right, Prince Harry. And so this has historical significance in that regard. So this is literally Diana pregnant with Prince Harry in Ghostbusters.
Globe.
So I got that. I got that screenshot because I thought that was interesting.
No, just reading the headline. Just reading the headline.
Ghostbusters Super Diet. Yeah.
So they're very popular. I imagine they'll be on cereal boxes as well.
Yeah. I thought this picture of Venkman is hilarious as well. Slumped in the car. What are we up to? Okay. And so Winston arrives, Winston Zedmore, the Black Ghostbuster, and he's interviewed by Janine, and basically Ray just like hires him on the spot, puts him to work right away, even though he's really dressed up in his nice blazer. And then we cut to Venkman running into Dana after her music rehearsal. And this is funny too, because
just a second, just touched on how Winston like applied for the job and he got hired. You'd think that there'll be a lot of people applying for this job, right? Like they're popular, they're on TV, and you think that there would be like a line of people like down the road, but it's not the case.
People probably think they're rich as well, since they're so popular, but they're not, you know. But I think you're right. Or maybe people are just too scared of ghosts. It's like people, like if you had a company that hunts spiders, like not everyone, and they're really successful and famous, like not everyone's gonna jump on that job, you know.
Yeah, I guess so. If you put it in that context.
Because it's like, so we cut to Venkman running into Dana. So this is hilarious because Venkman, like we cut to Venkman and he's like doing this weird hop thing in the distance as Dana comes out of the rehearsal. Like it's such a little thing, but it adds so much to Venkman's character and like the humor of the scene. And so he's there to sort of give her a bit more information about what they've discovered about Zul, which refers to a demigod. And Zul is the minion of Gozer, like the main bad guy god. But then he sort of asks her out on a date, you know, let's meet maybe Thursday. And so there's also this stuck-up musician guy hanging around her as well. And he's really pale, of which Pete tells him. And so back at the
Oh, I was gonna say he's sniffing in that sinus nose spray stuff on the side.
I know. that was a nice depiction as well. Like he's pale, he's like sickly. He's probably allergic to everything.
It's probably the New York weather though.
Like he's the opposite of Peter Venkman, basically. Like he's just scowling the whole time.
But it gives you an idea of who Dana hangs around with, or like the men that's around her is like you got this musician guy, you got Lewis in her apartment, and you got Peter as well. Like nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Like there's no standout for her. So
there's no.
She gotta pick the guy that makes her laugh. Like
yeah, yeah. The one that makes her laugh and doesn't like suck up to her. And so back at the headquarters, Ray showing Winston how they store the ghost. So this is our first glimpse of like the containment unit at the headquarters. So which is interesting, which is another aspect of the mythology or the universe of the Ghostbusters, is how they contain the ghosts that they actually catch, because they don't just catch the ghosts and release them. Like they catch them and put them in this containment system so they can't escape, basically. But then they get a visit from Peck. I think it's Walter Peck.
Walter Peck.
Of the EPA. Yeah. Of the Environmental Protection Agency. So he's a pencil neck dweeb who just a bureaucrat who just wants to cause trouble for these guys. And so he has a conversation with Peter, and he wants to see the facility, but Peter says, "You didn't say the magic word." And Peck still doesn't know what the magic word is, which sort of speaks to what kind of person he is. Of course, the magic word is please, but he doesn't get it. And so Peck threatens to get a court order to demand an inspection of their facility, but Peter kicks him out of his office, of course. And so they're having a meeting with the Ghostbusters, and Ray and Egon's talking about a massive spike in paranormal activity in the local area, and they compared it to a giant Twinkie. I remember as a kid wondering what the hell a Twinkie was.
We never had Twinkies in Australia at that time.
No,
there's so many references. Came around. Yeah,
so many references that we didn't get, like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which we'll talk about later.
I've got his pop. I should have. No, he's taped up, so I didn't open him.
Is it big?
It's a 6-inch, so it's probably about almost as big as this building.
Damn, that would have been cool to put it next to the headquarters.
Yeah,
yeah, good size for that.
Yeah, he can come out behind the building or something.
yeah, that'd be cool. So we sort of get some different shots around the city of gargoyles, which sort of foreshadows what's going to happen in a few minutes in the movie. And I see a gargoyle statue breaking apart, revealing a red eye and a claw. So we get the impression that things are starting to heat up in terms of the supernatural activity in the city. Back at the apartment, back at Dana's apartment building, Lewis is having a party with his clients. So he's not having a party with his friends. He's having a party with his clients because he's an accountant. And so he can write off the party as a business expense. But that's how nerdy he is in terms of his accounting. And so he invites Dana over to the party, but Dana says, "Oh, I've got a date." And you can see he just shrinks even more. He's so disappointed. Then it's "Oh, I guess you can bring him as well," which is, he sort of, redeems himself in a way by suggesting that she bring her date to his party. So, but then he tries to get back into his apartment, but it's locked out again. And so Danny goes into her apartment and is on the phone with her mom when the kitchen door starts glowing and making really weird noises. I thought that was really well done in terms of the special effects. That was pretty scary. Like that's something you see in a horror movie, not in a comedy. So I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, definitely. Really well done. Scary.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good acting too.
Yeah. So we cut to Lewis's party. So there's a bunch of random people in his apartment, like actually heaps of people. But then a Zool gargoyle creature. Actually, I'll just call it Zool. A Zool crashes into his bedroom. Or crashes out of his bedroom.
I call it Hellhound.
Oh, a hellhound, yeah. So
Yeah.
a hellhound like bursts into the apartment.
Or Demon Dog.
Yeah, demon dog. So it comes out of his bedroom, actually.
Yeah, it's just sitting on the bed and they're throwing jackets and stuff on it.
They're throwing jackets on it. That was funny. And then it bursts out and lands on a table. This is one of the bad examples of special effects.
The worst special effects in the whole movie.
Yeah.
They probably could have just got a big Rottweiler or something and thrown it out the door or something instead.
Yeah. Yeah, you wonder why there's so much good special effects, but then you have that moment. It's kind of like 89 Batman, because there's some shocking special effects.
They probably could have had someone in a suit run through a door or something.
Yeah.
Even.
But, yeah, there's many things they could have done.
This was like one of the first attempts at CGI, so it's come a long way since then. So you gotta excuse it, I guess. It doesn't ruin the movie.
No. I think it adds to the aesthetic of it in terms of the time frame of when it was made. So Lewis freaks out and runs out of his apartment building as a hellhound is chasing him. And he runs into this restaurant, but he can't get in. Like, imagine running up to a restaurant, but you can't find the front door. I mean, that's what happened to Lewis. So it's like banging on the window for someone to let him in, but they don't. And so the hellhound sort of catches up to him.
So why did the hellhound choose him to be the key master?
Well, first of all,
is it because he lives in the apartments, the Shandor apartments?
Yeah. So Dana's apartment and his apartment are special places.
Oh, that's right. It's in the corner of the building on the blueprint or something like that.
Yeah, in terms of the architecture of the building, yeah.
Yeah.
So the building was made as this ritual to conduct rituals, basically. As a portal as well, to welcome creatures from hell. And so the gargoyle catches up to Lewis, and he sort of melts against the window, and then Peter shows up to Dana's apartment for his date. Dana looks a little bit different at this point in the movie.
On the cover of Vogue magazine.
So this is a hilarious change for Dana and Sigourney Weaver in terms of, you can tell she was having a lot of fun being possessed by Zool. And so she asks him if he's the keymaster, and he says no, and so she shuts the door. And then he rings the bell again. She asks the same question, and he says yes, and so she lets him in. And she says that she's preparing for the coming of Ghost of the Destructor. And then when he's in the apartment, like Zool, I'm going to call her Zool Dana. Zool Dana tries seducing him. But Peter knows that she's being possessed, so he's a bit standoffish. And so she goes to the bed, just like, oh, do you want this body, etc., etc. And Peter's like, is that a trick question? And so he's like, oh, I want to speak to Dana. And then Dana's like, there is no Dana, only Zoo. In this weird, like, demon voice, which is pretty cool. And then she starts levitating above the bed. And so we cut to Lewis running around Central Park, disheveled and muttering about the Keymaster of Gozer.
This is hilarious. When he's possessed and the way he speaks and acts is really hilarious. His interaction with Egon.
Yeah, we never really talked about Rick Moranis up to this point, but like he was a prominent comedic actor in the 80s. Like I remember him mostly from a movie like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
Right? So that was like what I remembered him from. But of course, he was in that same group of SNL performers with, Dan Akroyd and Eddie Murphy and all those guys. But he was a prominent guy back then as well. But yeah, he goes through a huge change after he gets possessed. So he's looking for the gatekeeper because he's the keymaster. Oh wait, did I mention that Dana is the gatekeeper? Because that's who she is.
You just did.
I just did. So later that night, Lewis gets dropped off at Ghostbusters headquarters because he's been acting weird. So the cops like pick him up and take him to the Ghostbusters. And so they're interviewing him, and Egon's like, he's not even human. And Lewis is ranting on about it. He's waiting for Gozer the Traveler. And then Peter calls from Dana's apartment and tells him that it's actually Dana that's the gatekeeper. And so he dosed her with a bunch of drugs, and so she's sleeping. And so we cut to Ray and Winston in the Ecto 1. They're talking about the Bible and the Book of Revelation and the end times, the apocalypse. And then Winston comes up with this theory that the dead have been rising from the grave in accordance with the prophecies from the Bible. So we get this sort of biblical end times reference in that scene. And then the next day, they get another visit from the EPA inspector, Peck the prick. Except he has cops and a court order with him. And this guy to shut down the containment system. And Egon's like, no, we can't just turn off the protection grid of the containment system. It'll basically release all the ghosts into New York City and cause this massive explosion. But the Peck just won't give up. And so he finally gets the guy to turn off the containment system, and things get really crazy in terms of ghosts flying everywhere. There's a hole that blown out the roof of the Ghostbusters headquarters.
Hold it! I want this man arrested! Captain, these men are a criminal violation of the Environmental Protection Act! And this explosion is a direct result of it! Your mother cannot...
Yeah, so they really don't like each other. So they had that encounter. So we get Peck later on at the end. I'll show you another picture of Peck. But so that's the EPA guy. He's a real prick. A real bureaucrat, the government bureaucrat, just following the rules all the time, not worrying about the practical implications of what he's saying or what he's doing.
He's a prick, but he has no dick.
Yeah, that's right. That's hilarious. We'll get to that later. And so we get this montage of these ghosts like causing havoc around New York City. For example, Slimer like jumps out of the hot dog cart with like a bunch of hot dogs in his mouth. And so this ghost release also wakes up Dana because she was sleeping on the bed. She wakes up, and then the wall to her apartment like blows out. And then we cut to the Ghostbusters. They're sitting in jail with a bunch of other guys also in jail. So it's pretty hilarious. Just regular guys.
Ray's got this blueprint out, and they're like talking strategy and ideas. And you got all these criminals standing around listening in. It's a really unusual scene.
Yeah, and they're talking about all this nerdy, like crazy supernatural stuff with a bunch of criminals. Yeah, so they're looking over architectural plans of Dana's apartment building. So I mentioned before that her apartment building was a source of, or a place for certain rituals in the past. So it's supposed to concentrate spiritual turbulence. It's a superconductive antenna for that type of thing. So I've got some background information. So the guy who designed the building was a Dr. Ivo Shandor, who performed a lot of secret surgeries and started a secret society, the Cult of Gozer, in 1920, which was a Sumerian god. And so Shandor decided that society in general was too sick to survive. And so he had his 100 followers performing rituals that sort of bring about the end of the world. To bring about the end of the world. So he's sort of he thought he knew what society needed, and it wasn't sort of normal life. It was to bring about the end of the world, basically. And so the Ghostbusters get busted out of jail by the mayor because the mayor wants to talk to them to figure out what the hell is going on. And so, wait, let me just, yeah. So we actually get the scene with the mayor in a second, but firstly, Lewis, he sort of finally makes it to Dana's apartment with the wall blown out. I thought this whole scene was really hilarious. Where we get to see everybody. So this is basically when they meet. So this is just after she kissed him. But he doesn't know. He's not Lewis at this point.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know that she kissed him.
They're just going on animal instinct.
Yeah, they're possessed. They're both possessed. As the key master and the gatekeeper. So they have to sort of get together and
have
enable
sex.
Yeah, they have to enable the Gozer to come through the portal. That's what their purpose is.
So that'll complete the ritual.
Yeah. So back at the mayor's office, the mayor finally gets to meet the Ghostbusters. And then Pecky's there too. So Pecky's trying to mess with them as well. They're trying to blame them for everything that happened, trying to get them in trouble. And then, as you mentioned before, Peter. Wait, I think Ray makes a ridiculous joke, and then Peter expands upon it. Peter's
the mayor's like, "Is this true?"
Peter's like, "Yeah, it's true. He doesn't have a dick or something." Yeah.
It's true. This man has no dick.
Yeah, that's funny. And so they're trying to figure out what to do, and so a priest shows up, and so he's like, "We're not getting involved." But he says it's like, it might be a sign from God or whatever. And then Winston tries to back up the Ghostbusters by saying, no, he's just a regular, just joined recently, and he sees some crazy stuff.
He's seen some shit that'll turn you white.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. He should have said that it turned me white. That would have been even funnier. Yeah, and so Ray, Peter, and Egon start yelling about the end of the world just like it's reported in the Bible and the Book of Revelation. And so the mayor is sort of convinced by Peter, mostly, I think, and kicks Peck out of his office. And so it seems like they have this plan they can take into action. So the National Guard is called, and the Ghostbusters get a police escort to the building, and everyone's acting like it's the end of the world. And then we get another mini montage, and the Ghostbusters get a really warm reception from the New York City people.
Hello, New York! Well, now, everybody, the race dance, would you please? The heart of the Ghostbusters. Thank you.
Like the 92, they're like the 92 All-Star team, NBA. I mean, not the All-Star team, the Olympic team.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So right after that moment, the Ghostbusters actually fall into this hole that opens up in the front of the building, this gigantic hole. But they manage to crawl out, and the crowd cheers again. I really like this moment with the crowds cheering them on. It sort of builds anticipation and excitement for the rest of the movie, I thought.
And then it's kind of ends when they walk into the building and they got to walk up all these flights of stairs.
Yeah, so that's a really funny comedic moment. Is that the contrast between, the excitement of the crowd and then cut to them struggling up 22 floors of stairs.
22? I thought it was more than 22.
No, I wrote in my notes that I have to walk up to the 22nd floor.
It just looked a lot more when you look up the staircase.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true, yeah. That is true, actually. Meanwhile, Dana and Lois are preparing for the appearance of Gozer, which looks something like this. So they're channeling the power of Gozer. This is hilarious. Rick Moranis' face. So I thought the lightning effects are really good for 1984. Pretty flawless, really.
It looks like lightning to me.
Yeah, but I mean the purple and stuff. And so the lightning sort of turns them into hellhounds, is what we're calling them. And so they sort of wait for Gozer on the platform as the hellhound shape, as hellhounds. And then we actually get to meet Gozer because the Ghostbusters have arrived.
Good evening. As a duly designated representative of the city, I order you to cease any and all supernatural activity and return forthwith to your place of origin or to the nearest convenient parallel dimension. That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Ray.
Yeah. So again, I guess that's a good example of like the contrast between the nerdy Ray and the smart alecky Peter. But yeah, he sort of relies on his words to just to tell the god to get out of here. So, but none of the Ghostbusters really have the balls to take on Gozer. But then, as you saw, Ray sort of, gins up the courage to actually speak to Gozer, and then Gozer asks Ray if he is a god. Are you a god? And then Ray says no. You must die. And then Gozer blasts him with force lightning. I'm calling it force lightning. Force Lightning. But this is 84. So Star Wars 4 was in 77. Star Wars Empire was 81. Jedi was... When was Jedi? Jedi was 83. So this is well after the introduction of Force Lightning. That's my point. Oh wait, where am I up to? Bloody hell. Yeah.
Oh,
so
you're
she
saying ask him if he's a god and blast him.
Yeah, the blast him with Force Lightning, but they get back up.
And Winston's like, next time someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
yeah, that was fun. And so they sort of they try to blast Gozer with their proton packs, but she dodges it, and then she disappears. And they think that maybe they actually got her, but actually things are about to get much worse for them, because the building starts to crumble, and then Gozer sort of asks them to choose the form of the Destructor. So whatever they think will be the form of the Destructor. And so so Peter's like, don't think of anything. And then Gozer's like, oh, we have chosen the form of the Destructor. Peter's like, no, we didn't think of anything. And they turn around and actually, Ray actually thought of something.
I couldn't help it.
What? What just popped in there?
I tried to think.
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah, I thought this was a really unexpected turn in the movie. They have this gigantic Marshmallow Man show up in the city out of nowhere.
I'm trying to think what was my most memorable scene in this movie, and I think it is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, like taking that corner and walking through the city. It was just, I think that was my most memorable moment that I can remember.
Yeah, I think
it's hard. It's hard for this movie to decide what was most memorable.
No, I think I agree with the Stay Puft. It was definitely distinctive. Really stands out in terms of being unexpected, but also the fact that it's this gigantic white marshmallow person with this smiling face. So Ray thought that the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man would be relatively harmless because it was such a positive influence for him as a kid growing up. But they all sort of blast the Marshmallow Man. And what sort of struck me as a kid was that the facial expression of the Marshmallow Man changes to one of anger and pain, I guess.
He's like on fire, basically.
Yeah, and it catches fire. It starts climbing the building like a rampage.
Yeah. Is that we like making a reference to Rampage the game?
Yeah, Rampage the game, yeah.
Yeah. The old school game.
Maybe I should explain. Rampage, the arcade game, was where you control gigantic beasts like King Kong and you climb the buildings and destroy buildings. This is a really fun game.
Like a 4 and 4.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, King Kong, controlling King Kong and destroying buildings. So Egon actually comes up with the idea to cross the streams. And he's talking about, it's like there's a small chance that we'll actually survive reversing the polarity of the streams. And so just before they fire up their packs, everyone's like, Ray's saying, it was an honor to work with you, Dr. Venkman, and stuff like that, which is nice. And so they concentrate their blasts into the portal and cross the streams, which sort of destroys the portal and blows up the top of the building. And then the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man also blows up and sort of covers Peck in marshmallow goo as well. So the final indignity of Walter Peck. So the guys get knocked down. They're covered in marshmallow goo, but they're alive. And Peter thinks Dana is dead because she turned into a dog. But then they actually see Lois and Dana like struggling to crack open the dog cocoon that they're in. So they're not actually dead. Yeah. But Lois has no idea what's happening.
Superintendent's gonna be pissed. Who are you guys?
We're the Ghostbusters.
Who does your taxes?
We'd like to get a sample of your brain tissue.
Okay.
A couple of really funny lines, like who does your taxes by the Ghostbusters. Like we like sample of your brain tissue. It's one joke after another. It's really well written at the end. And that's basically the end of the movie. So the movie ends with the theme song and the crowd cheering on the Ghostbusters. So a smart thing they did with this is they played the theme song, played the credits, but then also had the ending of the movie where the characters get the ovation from the crowd. So it's a really interesting way to finish the movie. It just sort of makes it look a lot different to any other type of movie where you just have the credits rolling and then that's it. You play the theme song, but you have the theme song amongst the the final moments of the film. And then another thing that they did in the 80s was sometimes in the end credits, each character would get their own credit scene. Like in the end of Predator, remember? They would have each character posing and then they have their name on the screen. So same thing happens here, which is a good idea. And then at the end of the credits, the ominous music comes up again. And then Slimer flies into the camera, and then then the proper credits roll, and that's it.
Yeah.
Fade to black. So a really clever ending to the movie. Really interesting ending to the movie. Overall, I think there's so many interesting ideas, which is why Ghostbusters has stood the test of time for so long. And they're still making remakes and remasters and extending the universe and stuff like that, even up to this point.
Did you watch Afterlife?
No, I haven't watched Afterlife.
2019 one. I watched it. It's
how was it?
It's got the Ghostbusters feel to it, and it's shot well. And the only issue is that it's kind of kiddie with the child actors and with the story and the nostalgia's there, and it's worth checking out. It's worth seeing because Gozer and Zool make a reappearance. So the story's pretty good.
Oh, so it's Gozer and Zool again. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I may check it out. I'm actually interested to check out Ghostbusters too, because from what I recall, don't the people of New York turn on the Ghostbusters in the sequel? Like they become public enemies.
It's something like that because they're in court again, I think.
Yeah, I think they're getting sued or whatever. Like all the positive.
What else was it? And it was that Vigo painting or something.
Oh, yeah, Vigo. Yeah, that's right. Wait, let's watch the Ghostbusters 2 trailer. This might get my stream dinged. So maybe I shouldn't watch it. Wait, let me try something. Wait. I'll watch the whole thing.
Just leave us in the corner on the screen. It should be fine.
In the corner.
Yeah, just
Like that?
yeah, I think
Like
that's
that, you reckon? Okay.
yeah. All right. How long is it? 2 minutes, 2:40.
I'll probably just watch like 30 seconds of it.
Yeah. Oh, it's PG.
Yeah. I mean, what else did you expect?
Was this Ghostbusters PG? I mean, the first
I'm assuming.
On New Year's Eve of
I'm
the last
assuming.
decade of the 20th century, America's
Right, let's skip through some of this.
one. That voiceover guy did like Gremlins and did every movie, didn't he?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that voiceover guy. Yeah.
You sure he
Right,
did
let's see
Chuck?
some of this.
There's room for Jello.
Happy New Year.
Pose 'em.
Ghostbusters 2.
You're sure?
Yeah, that voiceover guy. I like going to see Vigo. Okay. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I want to get some Vigo action. Yeah, so this is Vigo. I don't know what kind of expression that is. I think it's supposed to be in reference to the Dracula mythology, right? From what I can recall, Vigo the Carpathian. That's the Dracula, Transylvania, Vlad the Impaler mythology. So that's what that's based on. But yeah, so that's Ghostbusters, another entertaining 80s movie from our past. It was fun to go back to check it out. I thought it was hilarious. And was glad that we could revisit it and talk about it as adults. So, any final thoughts about Ghostbusters?
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's one of the most iconic pop culture films of all time. It's fun. If you're into supernatural ghost concepts, then definitely check this out.
Yeah, if you're into Bill Murray as well. I mean, it's a Bill Murray movie you have to see if you're a fan of Bill Murray. I mean, it goes without saying. That's dope. So yeah. Once again, here's the Ghostbusters. Well, we got some music coming through to finish off the stream. This is something new.
Oh, that's not bad. It's a good beat going there.
This is StreamYard music, by the way. This is like loaded in.
Like back in my 20s in the club.
Exactly.
Got my Jack Daniels and Coke.
So in 2 weeks we'll be checking out Universal Soldier, and then 2 weeks after that will be Rocky IV. Rocky IV is going to be a big one. I'm going to put it up there with Terminator 2 in terms of the significance of the stream.
Strap yourselves in for 3 hours.
A month from now, yeah. A month to prepare for that. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to check out my channel, SCTV Syncomando TV. Live and exclusive every second Saturday night, 9:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. Check us out, and we'll go out on this beat and our drinks. Here's to Ghostbusters. Here's to you. See you later.
Later.
See you later. Later.